And the lines are open on 011-542-2186. You can also join us on social media. It's at ANN7TV or my personal one at I am Cindy Mabi. In studio, we have Archbishop Modiri Patrick Shole, South African Union Council of Independent Churches President. Musiri Tsiane, South African Liberty Foundation Chairperson, is on the phone line. Beth Walenkuna, Chairperson of SAPU, the South African Police Union. And good evening to you, and thanks so much for joining us. Sabona Bishop. It's really harrowing experiences that we're seeing in recent days in Cape Town, still retaining the dubious title of being the world capital for murder.
Yes, we are very touched with what's happening in the Western Cape, and I'm pleased to come here to request the Western Cape pastors in the Western Cape to pray for Western Cape, because the death that's going up. We have been looking at the TV news last week. The gangster, something have to be done. Government have to come and for cohesion and to help the community to pray for the nations, because we cannot have a lot of death going on. Yes.
So you're saying that this is more a spiritual warfare that is manifesting
yes.
in the natural, and that, you know, secular interventions have not worked, because yes. we've seen the church also assuming a role of getting more politicized as opposed to being concerned with issues of social ills. Is that your view?
Yes, I think it's a social ill. The need is, it's sort of a social cohesion. Pastors in the community have to come in, government have to come and assist, so that there should be intervention of divine spiritual, yes.
And we find also, Mr. Somo, that often unfairly so, the police tends to be implicated in this kind of criminality, saying they are in cahoots with criminals and also being bought off. Therefore, community members are not confident to report cases. What, in your view, especially if it's a rampant case of all these other triggers influencing violence there, that of access to drugs, alcohol abuse, including access to firearms, what else can be done by the police? But now.
Oh, Cindy, I thought you were still with the bishop.
Yeah, so, okay, interventions.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. You're with us now.
Yeah.
Well, so, in your view, what else, especially in the poverty-stricken, distressed areas, majority black or colored neighborhoods, what intervention, how has it failed, or why is it that we're still talking about this?
Yeah, it's a very unfortunate situation, because when some of us, when it also implicates the men and women in blue, who are supposed to be the alpha and omegas of combating crime and protecting communities, it really it's a very worrying factor. But then, without maybe promoting or saying it is true, because it has to be factual whether the men and the women in blue are involved. But then if that is true, it's something that needs really a thorough introspection from SAPS itself, in terms of what could be the root cause of their own members being involved in such kind of activities.
We hear Western Cape Premier always decrying the fact that they're understaffed, under-resourced, and therefore they don't have responsibility or control over the police service in the province. Is that how the hierarchy works, that the National Police Service now has to interfere or intervene in the Western Cape province problem?
Yeah, it's something which it shouldn't be in the it shouldn't be that way, because any problem, before it becomes national, it has to start from regions, provincial, and going upwards. So it will be very much worrying in terms of how SAPS manages itself, in terms of, because it has to be coming from, it has to be regional, provincial, up to national. So we can't have a situation whereby national doesn't know what is happening regionally or provincially, or the provincial doesn't have a link up to national. So it's a situation that needs a thorough introspection within SAPS itself.
But it's also interesting to note that these kind of violent acts and the pillaging of violence of people's aspirations and hopes, just the living conditions in itself, very densely populated, little recreation, and a history of drugs and violence that is intergenerationally perpetuated, Bishop. So how do you break that cycle if at government level there's already issues around resources or even taking accountability?
Yes, well, Western Cape has been ignored. There's been a lot of ignorance of a community for quite a long time. If you see a lot of gangsterism, it happens particularly in the flats, where there's unemployment, high rate of unemployment. And then also some squad, if you leave from the airport to the township, Gugule to Nyanga and so on, is where there are some squatter camps. That's where crimes is happening. I think the only solution it will be the creation of employment. And then most people will have employment. And a lot of also education. They should also create some forums, like policing forums in the community. Let it be activities of stakeholders in the communities, civic organizations, police, and the other organizations as well. They must, civic organizations, they must be involved.
Yeah.
But now if they are not involved, it's very difficult for the provincial government to intervene, because at the grassroots, there's nothing has been in place. Yeah, so they need to put forums in place.
Yeah, Mr. Nkoda, is there a strategy though, a national comprehensive strategy in combating gang wars and violence in these primarily black areas?
Yeah, from the background that I'm coming from, because I'm here as coming from the South African Policing Union, SAPU. Yeah, there is project in place from the organization itself in terms of alerting our communities all around, in terms of them being free to be able to report everything that is problematic in their areas without not interjecting everything to say no. Even the police themselves are implicated in such kind of things. So there are programs that SAPU itself as a union, because we're not only a union that is about fighting for the rights of the workers. We are more looking at the bigger picture of making sure that South Africa becomes a safe place for everyone. So there are programs and projects that SAPU is undergoing in terms of encouraging the communities not to live with the stigma, to say that, okay, police are also the same as, there is no use to report any cases because they are not being followed up and everything, especially when we talk issues of domestic violences, rapes, or any other issues that are affecting women, because women become people who are victimized and also threatened to the extent whereby they are unable to voice their
We'll talk about the effectiveness
situations.
of those campaigns in a minute. Let's take Mtogo in Harrismith. Good evening to you and thanks for calling.
Thank you very much. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
No complaint. Cindy, there's one thing that we run away from in South Africa. That thing is that we don't want to find out who supply these people with guns. Because if we find one or five of the gangsters, let us find it from them. Who supply them with guns? If we find them, let us, because we can run off. Even the person can even become a police, but he cannot deal with this thing just because this thing, somebody somewhere is supplying these guys with guns, drugs. And these guys are becoming now big bulls. If we don't address this issue, don't throw them in jail and give them the parole after that. Ask them the question: where did they get the guns and the drugs?
Mtogot, thanks so much. You're on a valid point that the mules are the focus of law enforcement as opposed to going to the masterminds and the ringleaders. Thanks for your call. Sam in the Western Cape, good evening.
Yes, thanks very much, Sandy, for this opportunity.
We're listening. Go ahead.
Yes, Sandy.
Please turn down your TV set. It's giving us feedback. Sam, go ahead.
Yes, sorry, I will switch it off. Sandy, look, man, what is happening here in Western Cape? If you undermine the safety of the national police, in Western Cape, we've got a problem. And I will put this blame on DA. And let me tell you that this is the reality what is happening in Western Cape. A poor black life doesn't matter here. And if this have happened to those white areas, everything is supposed to be good and they will react. Black life doesn't matter in Western Cape. This is a reality. As long they undermine the police and they want to put their own police force, like the law enforcement, they have never ever tried to solve this problem. The reality is, let me tell you something, South Africa is just going backwards. With the system of the Western Cape DA government, the DA doesn't care about black and colored people here. Their most important thing is to care for these whites and the white business. As long as you are colored and a black person, life doesn't matter. You are just, I don't know how to describe it. You are not a human being.
We'll put it out there. We did invite a response from the DA. Sam, thanks for sharing your personal experiences on the ground, saying and blaming the Democratic Alliance government in the Western Cape, saying that black lives and coloured lives don't matter, and that these kind of pillaging of violence, especially in communities that are already distressed, would not happen, or at least it would have been curbed much sooner if it happened in suburbia. Bishop, I know as a man of the cloth, a man of God, you may not want to be dragged into these issues, but the church has a particular role to play.
Yes.
Even if it is conscientizing governments, regardless of who's the leader,
yes,
at least to have the compassion, the batupeli,
yes,
ensuring just the mere basics,
yes,
of needs, that of safety and security,
yes,
and the ability to fend for your family.
Yes, I do believe since the government in the Western Cape, they are actually not looking after the needs of the people in the Western Cape. Because in terms of social justice, it has been violated for quite a long time. You remember there were some toilets, the bucket toilets in the Western Cape. Even the way they have been having some squatter camp for quite a long time. The Western Cape government, they're actually not doing their services in the Western Cape, because people in the Western Cape, they are suffering, and yet the government got rights to look after their people in the Western Cape. They're only looking for the votes. When there is time for the votes, you'll see some politician working in the township getting votes. But now we are saying if we can only improve the lifestyle of ordinary people, offer them a minimum services, water, sewages, and then houses, RDP houses. Yeah. That will be enough.
Mr. Nkuna, I mean, of course, we don't know the personal experiences of people on the ground and the veracity of the allegations in terms of how materially it's true that there is a deliberate attempt by the DA-led Western Cape government to neglect black and coloured areas and only focus on the well-resourced areas. So in the policing structure, what is the situation currently, whether the authorities there that are put in place by the national government are being undermined, and that the Western Cape government wants to put in their own system of law enforcement? Can you clarify that?
Cindy, we need to also understand, as a South African Policing Union, we are out of the view, because before we put things to a political level, let it be, as SAP, we are an apolitical organizations ourselves, whereby before we can jump into how DA is running issues in the Western Cape, it has to be a priority that is coming straight from the South African Police Service itself. Because before everything can be politicized, there must be steps put in place that is to protect as SAPS its vision and mission, to ensure that the lives of the livelihood of South Africans is protected 24/7. So at this moment in time, I'm not in a position to apportion any blame to any political party that is handling any other region or province or anything. But as SAPS itself, we are of the view that policing in South Africa is a priority. Cindy, I'm not sure whether you are even aware that as we speak at the moment, there is a strike by 10111 members. And a 10111 call center, if it's neglected on its own from SAPS itself, before we can apportion any blame to your DAs or any other political party, we need to get our house in order ourselves before we can blame any other political party. So we're in a situation whereby it's a very alarming situation where SAPS itself neglects its own alpha and omega of the poor South Africans. The people in Philippi, in Western Cape, when they are in trouble, they need to call 10111. And when they call 10111, those members of 10111 are on strike. Then, as SAPS management, what are you saying to those people? Who must they call when they're in trouble? So I don't want us to go further in terms of your DA and everything. SAPS itself need to get its house in order before we can politicize everything.
And I appreciate that, because at the end of the day, as polarized as we are and different political parties being at play, the key issues is that the lack of safety and security impacts on all of us. Crime impacts on all of us, where there is uncertainty of the future, the protection of our children, etc. But ultimately, there needs to be a national strategy. We saw the minister announcing on the tactical response team units and the tracking units being reintroduced. But just the compassion around people, Bishop, you think we have lost that as a nation, where you have enough concern that you would report, even if it's your own kin that may be perpetuating crime, and take them to authorities?
Yes, Cindy, if you realize, with the record of my understanding that Philippines, there's been a lot of report that the police are corrupt in that station for some time. So the national government to come down to the provincial to intervene, it means that there's a problem in the Western Cape. So they must get rid of the bad police in that police station and relocate other police from other areas, so that at least there should be law and order in the community. Because our people, they have lost confidence, have lost trust to the police in the area. And if you lost trust to the police, who is going to protect you? So their children are not protected. Look now, the children, that drugs going on there. People are killing. So you'll never have a trust. Whether if you report it to the police station, are you reporting to the very same person who is going to make your life vulnerable to the people who are committing crime in the area? Now, I'm simply saying, minister must come down and get rid of the bad element in that police station and get other police in that, so that the people should have a confidence in reporting the matters in the police stations.
Yeah, I think one caller also referred to the profiling of syndicate criminals and gangs, so that you're not chasing the mule, but the ring lords and the masterminds behind why there's so much access to drugs. Where do all the ammunition and firearms come from? Mr. Nkuna, with the police, do you have a desktop approach? Can you point to where all of these triggers of violence come from?
Yeah, the problem with, at the moment, South Africa will need to be realistic in terms of crime, the way it is at the moment. Because if ourselves, as within SAPS, were implicated, it becomes a huge problem. because the question that comes from the caller to say, no, where does this ammunition come from? It's a very huge and important question that really points back to ourselves, because as SAPS, we need to be in control in terms of gun licensing and everything. But then, if it now happens that people have just got a free access to have guns and everything, then it points back to ourselves as SAPS that we need to really find out. Like I said earlier, because I'll re-emphasize on the issue of introspection within SAPS itself. Where are we failing our communities? How come does criminals have free access to guns? How come do they have free access to your drugs and everything? So before we can even go out to want to point blames everywhere, introspection is an in-house problem.
Totally. Let's go to Mfundo, and Mokhato will come to you next. And Don, thanks for your patience. Good evening, Mfundo.
Yes, good evening, Cindy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. You know, Cindy, I've got only one comment regarding this, what we're discussing at the studio. I'm a member of the PLF here at Umlazi. The only solution is for the government to give people land where they can go and work the land. Without the land, the people are too congested in that area. So that is why there is too much of these gang wars. They are congested in one area because they don't have land. Some wine farmers there, they've got plenty of land. So the government must give people land, people must go and work. That's all I want to comment on.
Mfundo, thank you so much, saying that these have become breeding ground because of the congested nature of the environment where people are living in. Mohape, good evening to you and thanks for joining us.
Yes, Cindy, how are you?
I'm well, sir. How are you?
I'm all right. Cindy, 2 points that I want to make tonight. I think the fight was lost because of intelligence of this country. When the intelligence became redundant, that's when the fight against crime decreased also. I like what Nkuna said in regards to the introspection of SAPS itself. You know, an issue of Quintuple One, it's a very, very thorny issue. You can't have a situation whereby people are placed to render a service to the community, and then you take police officers from outside and you put them inside the offices so that they may answer calls. So I think this matter goes back to the management of SAPS. SAPS needs to do something in relation to the management, because these people, even today, if you can see, when Lesish was supposed to report...
Yeah, please keep it brief. We still have another caller on the line.
Yeah, I'm saying the National Commissioner was supposed to report to Parliament today, but he didn't do so. He was out of the country. So that's how little he thinks about
There's
South
no
Africa
sense of
itself.
urgency. All right, Mohapi, thanks so much for that. Turns out it's Mohapi, not Mohapi. And Don, good evening to you, and thanks for joining us.
Hi, good evening.
What's your comment or question?
No, I just wanted to just to respond to that Sam that he goes on about. You know, only when there's whites that are killed, then the police respond. To me, that's total garbage. You know, if one South African is killed, doesn't matter if he's black, white, whatever color, it's a disgrace. It's a disgrace for our country that we're going down the tube like this and nothing's getting done about it. Doesn't matter what color you are. If you get shot and you get killed and you get raped, it's disgusting. It's a disgrace.
Yeah, Don, and that's exactly what
makes me mad.
Yeah,
I actually, when I hear crap like that, it makes me mad.
Yeah, but you know, it's also in the absence of a well-communicated or articulated national strategy that we can all buy into, because in our various spaces and corners, we experience crime and life differently in the country. So, you know, we allow people their own views as to how they feel. It may not necessarily be the view of ANN7 or the general perception, but that's how people, you know, experience life in South Africa. But thanks so much for your call, and that's where we'll leave it, gentlemen. Thanks so much for coming in this evening, for participating in the debate. We have Archbishop Modiri Patrick Shole, the South African Union Council of Independent Churches president, and we have in studio Bethel Nkuna, the chairperson of the South African Policing Union. Thanks indeed, sir. And you at home, we appreciate your calls. We'll take a quick break. We'll see you shortly.